Welcome back to the last episode of Root Notes for 2025.
And if you've been listening, you've gotten to know our friend Adam English, who has been with us along the way to talk about every book under the sun, except for mentioning the saint who would be Santa Claus, the book that he actually wrote about Saint Nicholas. So we have the world's leading expert on all things Christmas right here.
I'm so excited about this episode, you guys. I have been
Me too.
like a kid on Christmas morning, quite literally, all day.
We were actually in Chicago. Adam and I were in Chicago for a conference, and we were riding back to the airport, and I was like, hey, when it gets to Christmas time, we've got to talk about your thing as the Christmas episode.
Got to do this.
Yeah, so we're really excited about this.
I want to know if you guys read or read as you grew up the night before Christmas, the poem The Night Before Christmas.
Of course, yeah.
I'm sure you're familiar with this.
It's a tradition. Like the grandparents read it with the kids on Christmas Eve, every single Christmas at our house. 100.
That's what we do as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would read, still do, read The Night Before Christmas, along with the Gospel of Luke birth story.
Okay, all right.
And
From Charlie Brown?
we sometimes throw a little Charlie Brown in there. But yeah, the same
That's
passage.
the one.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So it could be arguably the most famous poem written by an American.
Okay.
Most read, most well-known, most beloved
Yeah.
American poem.
I see what you're saying. Like
ever.
even homes that wouldn't consider themselves particularly literary.
Right.
That's the one
That's
poem,
the one poem
you might read
if
with
you
your
know a
children.
poem, if you read a poem, this will be it.
Yeah, okay.
So it's
Fair enough.
hugely important. And obviously it really just crystallizes the figure, the shape, the personality of St. Nicholas and Santa Claus in the American tradition.
yeah.
I think
Okay.
the Santa Claus tradition really roots in that one poem. And everything else kind of comes out of it. I mean, that is the origin story for the American Santa Claus.
Bowl full of jelly.
Sugar plums, man.
Yeah.
Like I wondered what sugar plums were. I still wonder what sugar plums are.
I don't know either,
Like,
but I
even
want
the
them.
whole image, right? The rosy cheeks and the white beard, like all of that's in there. I don't know if that's where it originated, but like what you're saying is that image that you have in your mind, it probably matches up with that poem pretty
It
well.
really does, yes. Santa landing on the roof, coming down through the chimney with, a pack of presents to put in the stockings, all of that. And the way the description of how he looks, yeah, exactly. The bowl full of jelly, stomach,
Jolly,
jolly,
pipe, smoke.
Yeah, all of that.
Okay.
So when you think about the copy you read or you read normally of The Night Before Christmas, who is the author of this poem?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I would be a
Little Golden Books.
Yes,
I have no idea.
Yeah, we had like the Little Golden Books version of it.
I will say that I actually have two picture book versions in my home, and they're slightly different.
Oh.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
ever so slightly
Do you want to talk about that?
Oh,
so
really?
Clement Clarke Moore.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Clarke
That's
Moore.
right, yeah.
That's right. So the story is that this poem was originally published anonymously in 1823, the Troy Sentinel newspaper. Now, anonymous publications were not unusual in the 1800s or publishing under a pseudonym. You think about Edgar Allan Poe did it, Soren Kierkegaard did it, lots of others. In fact, some of the early kind of Christmas stories. So the Knickerbocker New York History, which is a Christmas story done by Washington Irving, but published under a pseudonym, a guy named Knickerbocker. Anyways, so at first it was not known who published this thing.
Okay.
But
Did
it
you
was
say in the Troy Sentinel?
the Troy Sentinel, New York,
Okay.
Sentinel. But before long, people began to attribute it to Clement Clarke Moore.
Okay.
And in 1844, he finally accepted authorship and published it in a book of poems. And the rest is history. And he recounts the story. He says that in 1822, on his way home after buying a Christmas turkey, riding in an open sleigh, he pinned out the 56 lines of The Night Before Christmas
interesting. Okay.
and read it to his family the next morning. And a guest wrote out a copy and sent it to the newspaper. That's his version of the story. Now,
I hear
there's
foreshadowing.
the foreshadowing,
You phrase
right?
that.
And you think if you have the little golden book version, you look in the back, who is Clement Clarke Moore? It would say he was a professor at a seminary. So,
Interesting.
Union Theological Seminary in New York.
Oh, okay.
He was a Hebrew and Bible professor, and just upstanding citizen of the city. So it feels like, okay, this is a guy that could have written this. Literary and educated and this kind of thing. So it feels like, this might be right. But here's the but coming.
But wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more.
And it's not Clement.
So there is a very real sense in which it could have been somebody else. There's a strong argument to say it was not Clement Clarke Moore,
Okay.
but another guy altogether named Henry Livingston. And Dan Forrester and a number of people have done some really great research into this. So I want to tell you about it. It's pretty
The
mind-blowing.
scandal
So
of
there's
Twas the Night Before
scholarly
Christmas.
There's
scandal,
layers of scandal to this because
Interesting.
when you think about, okay, how did Moore come to claim this? Well, he only claimed, at first he rejected authorship, saying, it was a trivial thing, it was kind of beneath him, as it were. But as I said, it's only 21 years after the publication of the poem that he claimed authorship, and only after he wrote to the newspaper editor and asked him, how did you get this? Where did this come from? And when they said, we don't find any records, by that point, Clement Clarke Moore's wife had died, the original publishers had died, everybody, there was basically no one there to claim authorship. So it seemed like he felt pretty in the clear to claim it. But so this guy.
So I just make sure I understand this. So he wrote to the newspaper and said, hey, so tell me about what you have in terms of records. And they're like, we don't have any records. And he said, in that case, I'm pretty sure I wrote this.
Yeah, because people were saying that he had written it anyways. So you might say, okay, what's, maybe he did. What's so bad about that? So this guy, he's not the guy that you think he is. So, he presents himself as this, he's professor of, Bible at the Union.
Can be shady characters.
It's super shady.
I know a couple. Yeah.
But the truth is, he had inherited 600 buildings, a huge plot of land in New York. Are you familiar with Chelsea, New York?
Yeah.
That was his estate.
What?
Chelsea, the whole thing was his property. He owned thousands of acres in Saratoga County. All of it was inherited. So how did he become a Bible professor? Well, he donated the land and money and volunteered to be one of the 4 professors there.
Oh my.
So basically, he's just that's not somebody who earned his way to the spot.
Oh wow.
He bought his way into it.
So he's a rich guy who just said, I'm a professor now.
There's even more.
So, wait, hold on. And is this part contested, or is this pretty
No,
settled?
this is settled.
this
This
is-
is known in fact.
Interesting.
Died in 1863, but before that, he owned enslaved people and argued for the legitimacy of slavery.
In New York, not North Carolina.
Yeah, in New York, he was against women's education.
Oh, interesting.
He considered Native people savages, like was against Native Americans. He was against dancing. He thought that men who danced were like caged squirrels and women who danced were prostitutes.
Oh my.
So this guy,
I do dance a little like
It's
a
not-
caged squirrel, if we're honest.
that's maybe a fair observation.
But yeah, wow.
But
I mean, that's not stacking up to be.
no, right? That you think this holly jolly Christmas guy.
Right.
It's everything but. In his friends and his correspondence, he's hot tempered. His friends even remark on his hot temper, and in his book of poems, like everything else does not sound like this. It all sounds like his personality.
Well, then why would
Interesting.
someone attribute this to him if
Yeah, that's
they
a good
know
question.
this guy?
Yeah. That is a great question. There's not a solid answer other than he was a prominent New Yorker. He owns just thousands of acres and all these buildings. He's just well known.
Yeah.
So who could have done it? That seems to
Maybe
be.
he could have done it.
Maybe he could have done it.
He wrote poetry.
He wrote, and he did write poetry. So who is the contestant? Henry Livingston, who is just the counter opposite. He died in 1828, but he had served in the Continental Army as a major. He was a a cartographer. He's a surveyor. He was a poet and an artist, and he played the fiddle. And when it came to things like slavery,
Renaissance man, huh?
he was an abolitionist.
Oh, wow.
He
this guy,
advocated for women's education.
Nice.
And he
I choose this guy.
he advocated for
Yeah, I'm Team Henry.
for Native people. He advocated for their rights.
Interesting.
And when it came to dancing and singing, he was all for it. He said, this helps us kind of deal with the cares of the world and this kind of thing. So yeah, just the personality. Now, obviously, that doesn't make the case that he wrote it versus another person, but two completely different personalities. These two guys, they literal could not be any opposite. So yeah, the question is like, how did Livingston not claim this and Moore did? Well, if this thing was published in 1822, and we have other poems and writings of Livingston, he wrote little satires and poems, and oftentimes sent them in anonymously or just signed with an R, like the letter R, or he'd send them in as Henry Hotspur or Peter Pumpkin Eater, you know, just kind of stuff like that. And it was just sort of a trend at the time to do pseudonymous publications. So the fact
Like
that
Yik Yak of poetry.
exactly, the Yik Yak of poetry. But if you think about it, this thing comes out and it becomes instantly popular. People start reprinting it every year. But published in 1823, by 1828, he's deceased. And so when Moore claims authorship, he's been dead for 20 years.
And he also wouldn't have had like an estate in the same sort of situation. It doesn't sound like he would be fighting for the rights.
By the time the family sort of figured out what had happened, it was kind of already a settled matter. And they did make a claim, but unfortunately the attic where most of his paper was stored had burned. So there was no physical copy to prove that it was Livingston. So it is conjecture. Okay, so the question, here's where we can have some good dialogue and conversation.
Okay.
The question is, how would we know? Or is there any evidence? It's all circumstantial. So this is where we could do some fun literary analysis. We don't need the poem in front of us, but I want to pick out 3 examples that you will remember from the poem that will serve as test cases. So one is the word all, A-L-L. One is reindeer, and one is the final line. Remember, how does the final line go? Do you
Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
Okay, good. That's it.
Okay.
So,
I mean, we got 1 out of 3. I'm really not confident on our other 2.
you're going to get it all.
All right.
So think about the poem and the use of the word all, A-L-L. So in fact, you just gave us an example with the last line, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. And think about the first line of the poem. What is the first line?
Twas the night before Christmas and all
through the house. Yeah. So the word all appears all over the poem, all snuggled in their beds, and it's just throughout the poem. But that's kind of an unusual little adverb to use.
I haven't thought about that ever.
Right.
But all through the house.
Yeah.
It's just scattered through. If you go back and look at the poem, it's scattered throughout.
Okay.
It's one of his favorite words. The author's favorite words. We'll say it like that.
Right.
So that's one word you could look for, isn't it? In the writings of Clement Clarke Moore. Guess what you don't find? The word all. If you look at we do have some existing poems and letters of Livingston. Henry Hotspur, Mr. Livingston. Guess what it's filled with? The word all.
All.
Interesting.
All is all over there.
Yeah.
So another example is the reindeer. I don't know, can either of you list out all the reindeer?
I think we got it.
I'm putting you on the spot here. I'm testing your knowledge.
On Dasher,
On Prancer
on Donner,
and Blitzen
on Comet.
and Cupid. Oh, I think it already did Donner and Blitzen. Vixen. There's a Vixen in there.
How many did we just name?
We've already messed up. I think we're at 7 out of 8. There are
But you
8,
named
right?
it.
Well, I'm going to include Rudolph so we get the 8.
Yeah, you got your
Rudolph's not in there.
No,
I know.
Yeah.
But you got the 2 that are
different
important.
story.
So Donner and Blitzen.
Donner and Blitzen. Weird names.
Weird names, totally weird names. But in the original, the 1823 version, it's Dundon and Blixen. So it's different.
Dundon.
Yeah, and Blixen.
And Blixen.
So it eventually, editors began to change it to Donner and Blixen, which sounds better. It flows better. It's a better.
Sure.
But the Dunder and Blixen. Yeah, is actually a Dutch expression meaning thunder and lightning. It's kind of like when you stub your toe, thunder and lightning. Kind of you just something you shout out. Thunder
That's not what I shout out when I stub my toe. But
maybe not. We'll keep it PG here. But
Thunder and Blixen.
so Livingston's mother was Dutch and his father was Scottish. So he grew up with Dutch heritage. Would have known that phrase.
Interesting.
Moore, on the other hand, had Germanic background. But when the editors changed it, he went along with it, seeming not to know that this is a special expression that you would want to keep because it says something wink, wink, right?
Yeah.
So another little, just piece of evidence. And then the final one, you guys talked about it, Merry Christmas to all and to all a good night. It's a great closing line. But in the original 1823 version, it's Happy Christmas to all. And some of you said, one of you said like you had slightly different printings.
Both,
Yeah.
versions of it. And yeah, it might even be Happy Christmas in one of them.
Happy Christmas to all. It's not as, it doesn't flow quite as well as Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas just has a. So the thing is, in the early 1800s, Merry Christmas was already the most common expression. Happy Christmas was just not a thing. It's similar to today. Nobody says Happy Christmas. It just doesn't flow off the tongue.
Yeah.
That was true even in the early 1800s. But in the very first letter that we have preserved of Henry Livingston, guess what his opening line is? Happy Christmas.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm sold.
That's
Hank did it.
Sure.
Hank wrote it.
And so guess what Moore, guess how many times he said Merry Christmas or Happy Christmas in any writing whatsoever?
I'm going to say 0.
Exactly 0. In no letters, no writings did he ever say Merry or Happy Christmas. But this was kind of a common expression for Livingston.
Wait, the guy who's supposed to have written the Christmas poem never said Merry Christmas
He did not.
to anybody?
To anybody.
That we have record of? All right.
He was the ultimate
It's
Grinch.
not looking good for you, buddy.
It is not looking good.
So what was this, like some late in life attempt to revise history in a way that made him look better? Maybe he's looking back on his life like Scrooge. You get like visited by 3 spirits and they're like, hey, you need to go tell him you wrote this because you did nothing else good in your life.
I mean, that is the big question. Like, why would you do this?
Yeah.
And there's not a great answer, I don't think. Other than, he was a prominent man. He was a well-known individual and well-regarded, respected. I mean, surely his place in society meant a lot to him. And by the time, this was something I think that kind of came out of nowhere. And by the time that it became so popular and people had just been attributing to him for years.
He's like, you got me.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do at that point? I think he felt, I'm guessing it was more a case, not that he was intentionally trying to deceive anybody, is what I'm trying to say. I don't think he intentionally went out to try to deceive anybody. I think just by the time that he needed to do something public, he was kind of too late to actually say, no, I didn't write this. Then you could say, why didn't you disown it 10 years ago? Right?
Yeah.
I think it just kind of one of those things that happened, and then he checked and said, hey, nobody else is claiming this. So, all right, I mean, that's what I would
It's sort of
present.
like, don't know somebody's name, but you waited
exactly.
too long to ask them. Like you've been interacting with them for weeks or months, or I don't know, maybe longer than that. And you can't ask now.
No.
So he's like, I can't tell you now. You've been saying, maybe even in print, that this is me.
Yeah, this is our third date.
Yeah.
I'm just changing my name now.
Yeah, that's actually a great analogy. That's my suspicion. I mean, I don't know, but it just seemed probably too awkward for him to say. He initially just said, "This is a trifle." He used the word trifle for it. He tried to basically dismiss it.
He's a serious scholar.
I'm a serious scholar, right? Yeah. Interestingly enough, after his little book of poems was published, guess who wrote a review of his books?
Livingston.
No. Moore
dead,
himself, when he was dead by that point, Moore himself wrote a review of
he
his
wrote
own.
a review for his own book.
Yes, and signed it with an L. He sent it in kind of.
Are you serious?
No, I'm dead serious. Yeah, we know that for a fact.
This is having some parallels that I'm enjoying.
Yeah. So he sent in a review of his own book of poems,
Yeah.
as if it were written by somebody else, an anonymous L. Right. So
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the kind of guy he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, you were asking like, why might you do it? I mean, there might even just be baser. He was trying to move books. Like he's trying to sell books.
Maybe
he's got one poem that anybody's ever
But
heard
he's
of.
already
Put it
a
in there.
rich guy, so it's got to be about ego. It's got to be about.
He's trying to sell books. He didn't have to publish that.
He did not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why would you? Yeah. Who knows? I mean, but he certainly had all the money.
He even wrote his own review.
Yeah.
Yeah. He probably gave himself the inaugural prize for it too.
That's right. So yeah. But what's crazy about it is, it's just, I guess because it's sort of low stakes kind of stuff. I don't hear anybody talking about it, or that you never. I used to never hear this out there. On podcasts. Also, I've never found it. I'd love for the listeners to find another podcast where this gets talked about. I've listened to a lot of Christmas podcasts and it's never talked about.
This is breaking news.
I think it is.
Only close to a couple of 100 years in the future.
We have settled this.
I mean, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. Well,
but it's an interesting, like there's so few writings that people would bring into their homes and into your routines, into your just rhythms of a really sacred time.
Right.
Like even if you're not thinking about it in a religious sense, I mean that sacred sort of broadly, like this is a time that we hold sacred in some way to be with people that we love, many of us.
Yeah.
And you would incorporate that poem it's very unusual. And for there to be this history that not only says, two different people might have written it, but two different life narratives.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's what's
that
crazy.
might have brought you this story.
Yeah.
One that resonates a lot with the themes of all.
Yeah.
And then one that resonates a lot with the opposite of giving.
Yeah.
It really is. And I guess, for his time, he would have been a man of well regard of his time, but I think today in 2025, especially, we look at that and say, no, that's we want to be like Henry Livingston. We don't want to be like Clement Clarke Moore. This is, the opposite of what we want to be. So
it doesn't surprise me you brought this to us for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, like Dr. Santa Claus, like the world's authority on Saint Nick.
But in case you thought, because we make jokes all the time, we're not joking. You're actually a scholar on Saint Nicholas.
Leading authority
who's written a book called The Saint Who Would Be Santa Claus.
That is true, yeah.
And you do quite a lot of work in the area of Christmas.
That is true.
Yeah.
And I fell into it kind of by accident. I mean, it was not something I set out to do as a young scholar in the field. I had been leading study abroad groups to Italy for a number of years. And somewhere in the course of that, I learned that the bones of St. Nicholas are buried in Bari, Italy.
I did.
And that...
just pausing this story for a second. How long have we known this guy? I mean, it's decades.
Yeah, 20 years. Yeah.
I've never actually heard this story.
You've not heard this story?
So I'm going to sit on the edge of my stool for a second.
Book. Clearly, we haven't read it. No.
This isn't in the book, is it?
I don't think
Yeah,
so.
no.
No. Yeah. I don't know how you don't know the
know
story.
it wasn't in the book if you had read the book. Ask the author, is it in the book? See, I've read the book because I know it isn't in the book.
It is not in the book.
The book is not new.
No, it's not.
But it's perennially important.
It is.
It is, and it's new every year.
It's new every year. That's right. It's 2012.
Yeah.
But
so backing up, you were taking study abroad students to Italy, and then you learned that the bones
of Nicholas are actually buried in
Italy.
Bari, Italy. Now, he did not die in Bari. They were moved there in the Middle Ages, 1087 to be exact. They were essentially stolen. I mean, we would say stolen.
Wow.
The term they used at the time was translated isn't that such a nice euphemism? They were translated from Turkey, where St. Nicholas lived and died. But at that time, Turkey was being invaded and ultimately colonized by the Turks. And
they were worried about it.
Yeah, they were destroying churches and disrupting graves and things like that. And so they were liberated, I guess, another euphemism for it. But what was more interesting to me than just the fact that the bones were in Bari, Italy, connected to the basilica is an archive library run by the Dominicans. And that's what I really wanted to get into, because it was a whole archive library of data regarding the life of St. Nicholas. And, kind of like we were talking about with the night before Christmas, this is something that we celebrate in our traditions every year, but we don't really stop to know much about the person. So you think about maybe a Hallmark movie or a Hallmark book that would maybe just tell you one paragraph on St. Nicholas, he was a historical character, and then move on quickly to talk about Santa Claus. So when I started to learn that, I think there's some documents there that are really not known in English, I said, I've got to see what this looks like. So, I spent some time in Bari and with the documents, and it turns out we have a number of Greek and Latin manuscripts and documents that talk about this actual person as a historical person. We know some of what he did, and we can verify it historically. And so there just became a real story there to tell about the real life and trials of St. Nicholas. So now I had the very good fortune to write that book. I don't take any of that for granted, that it was something that kind of fell into my lap.
That's very cool. So the story of St. Nicholas that you spent time actually looking into with these documents has what relationship to what we all might, in this poem and in other places, come to know as St. Nick? Like, what is it? How does it become this?
Yeah. Well, it's really a story that's, more than 1,000 years in the making, to be honest. But I think the connection there really is that heart of generosity. That's what I think draws us to the idea of Santa Claus, somebody that is going to, give gifts, especially to children and folks that might need some kind of hope and uplift at the season time, and do it anonymously and without thanks and without, any kind of showiness. And that was St. Nicholas as well. We do have some stories of him serving his community, helping people out, but not doing it for show and glory and fame and whatever, but just doing it because it was the right thing to do, and it was a beautiful act of mercy. So, I think that's probably the line that connects them, to be sure.
Yeah, that's cool. And this St. Nicholas was contemporary with like Augustine, or later?
He probably born sometime after the year 260 and dies around the year 335. So right there at the turn of the 3rd century and 4th century. So his life is pretty remarkable, because if you know your history at that time, Christianity was an technically illegal faith when he was born. And by the time of his death, not only was it legalized, but it was now the officially approved religion of the empire. So he goes through this major sea change from being kind of the outside persecuted minority faith to being the majority faith with real power. And so very few people straddle that kind of difference. And Nicholas is one of them, which makes him, I think, endlessly fascinating just for that reason alone. But again, very little to do with Christmas on that.
So the little Lyft ride that took us back to the airport, where I'm like, we got to do this on the podcast. Part of it was we were at this meeting that was thinking about faith and health, and how the work of public health and medicine, to also healthcare, how that could be thought of differently, informed by faith, come alongside faith communities leading the way. Like, we were having those kind of conversations with Interfaith America's gathering in Chicago. And somehow we got on to talking about the fact that, it's a pretty interesting life, because in some ways it was this radical life of service to community and really sort of taking folks who are the subject of a lot of our public health programs, right? Trying to figure out how vulnerable communities can be empowered. He was kind of doing that work. That doesn't show up in the Santa Claus story so much, but that is the true life of what we know about St. Nicholas. Am I right?
That's exactly right. And one of my favorite stories about him, as doing that exact work, there was a severe famine in the region. They had a drought. They were running short on food, but there was a caravan of grain from Alexandria, Egypt, which is kind of the major producer right there in the Nile Delta of all kinds of grain for the empire. And they would boat it up to Constantinople, the empire's capital. And one of the stops is Myra on the way. Mm-hmm. And so Nicholas, on behalf of the city, goes out to bargain with this grain ship for some relief. And offering to pay them, offering to, so you think about, here's just a Christian pastor, and he's negotiating on behalf of an entire region for grain to, save the people, which is, to me, that's exactly the kind of work that we want to be involved in, where faith communities are, they're so aware of the problems that are in their community that they can speak for them, and they can address them, and that they're willing to, go speak to power and have a voice and, do that work. So be that mediator. I mean, I think faith leaders find themselves as some of the few people in society that can bridge between power and the community in some important ways. And, Nicholas is a good example of that, right? That he's able to do that on their behalf.
That is such an interesting and perfect example. I as you were telling it, I was remembering why this was so exciting in that car. And, it gets at a bigger question about, okay, so we all know St. Nicholas because it's something about his story is preserved in this person of Santa Claus. But that story is not the story that ends up becoming Santa Claus. Like there are not stories about these toys came to you because I negotiated a way for the people, the children, to have this thing.
Right.
It's a story about magic and elves and all of that. And what's interesting to me, said sort of cynically, is like, but that doesn't sell Coke as easy.
No, right.
Coca-Cola, right?
Well, the other cynical part is just we have so much privilege. And so we're not on a daily basis worried about famine. In ways that, other people in other times in history, this was front page news for them, and this was their daily lives. And so a champion like Nicholas, who's, by the way, in Greek, his name, Nicholas, means victory of the people. So he's a champion.
That's super cool.
So think of the Nike victory. So Nicholas, victory of the people.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's at his heart. Another really curious thing, if you chew around the churches in Europe, and there's always, saints depicted, but in all the churches in Europe, the old churches, what you would see is Saint Sebastian. And it's kind of like, if you're an American in the 21st century, who is Saint Sebastian? He's not in the Bible. Why is he there? Well, he is the saint whose protection you pray to in times of plague.
Oh, interesting.
And now think about a public health question. Right? Where are you going to turn in a time of plague and sickness? So those things, today we have so much privilege to be able to have things like CDCs and doctors' offices and hospitals that can take some of that burden and work, and we've got so many systems to support good and healthy lives that we can focus on things like Coca-Cola and hot chocolate and fun stuff like that. But you think about over time,
which lead you right back to the doctor.
Exactly, right. And manage our diabetes. But so
it's interesting.
You just remember, there are a lot of people in this world still today, but certainly historically, for whom Christmas was not a holly jolly season of plenty, but a real time of strain and stress.
It's interesting. the story you tell about the saint who would be Saint Nicholas. This action of going and intervening and interceding on behalf of a population that's starving. And then fast forward to today, and he is an icon of excess in many, many ways. He's fat, he wears a suit, he's constantly bringing tons of presents and putting stuff under the tree. I wonder how he would look at his legacy in that way. My guess is he'd be very grateful to you for bringing some truth.
Yeah, I'm sure.
To the story.
You know, that is a great question. I mean, how would he interpret his legacy today? Again, who knows, right? Well, but yeah, I definitely see the contrast there.
Yeah. It's also interesting to think about why we preserve this Santa Claus tradition and what that means for us. And, and being very conscious that when we're saying us, we're speaking from very specific. I mean, even when you were saying that, we don't really face famine today, that's speaking from, you're being very particular in the we.
Exactly.
Not humans.
In these walls, we don't
exactly.
experience famine, but not too far away.
Not too far away.
Yeah.
But, Santa Claus is a global phenomenon, right? And you're talking about 1,000-year history of getting to this point. It's an interesting thing to think about. Like, what is this story in your own home? What does it mean? And what does it carry with it? And how might that be connected to what you're valuing? I don't think it's all commercial.
No.
I mean, it's hard to argue it's not a lot commercial, but I think one of the reasons that your book resonated so much, and every single year, I mean, 2012, like I remember talking with you about this book on a fishing boat, like many years ago. Because you were doing it was published in 2012.
Yeah.
You were doing the research, and I think it was like 2008 or 9 when we were, anyway.
Yeah.
But
that's true.
It's been that long. And every single year this comes around, it's brand new to a lot of folks for really good reasons, because it's different, because it tells a story and gives a context that is a counterpoint to a lot of the things we think about sort of the commercial Santa Claus. I mean, you have been on TV about this time after time. You've been interviewed on NPR multiple times, podcasts, obviously this one.
This one's the best one.
Right, most high profile one.
Most high profile.
So I think it brings an important message that people are excited to hear. It gives me hope that it is as popular every year as it is, not just in a way that's like, oh, this is interesting. Like, people genuinely find it sort of transformational in the way that they think about the history of Santa Claus.
I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think people are looking for substance. And we have these family traditions. They mean so much to us. We cherish them. But how deep do they go? What is the substance of this tradition? Is it really just Coca-Cola? And, is it really just advertisers? And when they discover that, no, there is a rich historical and very real substance to this story, I think it enriches it. I don't have anything against the fantastical, Santa Claus stories and movies and books. And, I think that's part of the imaginative piece of Christmas. I think it's great when people display their creativity through new storytelling. But it's also great to know that there is some real historical tradition here and substance to this. And I think people yearn for both those things. They want something that's nostalgic. They want something that feels rooted. And this can give it to them, to be sure. So I think I want both things. We have St. Nicholas, whose Saint Day is actually December the 6th.
Yeah. And
I'd love for families to be able to have their Christmas Santa Claus celebrations on December 25th, 24th and 25th, do all that, open the presents, have that family time. That's special. But we also have an opportunity on December 6th to do a St. Nicholas activity, do something in the spirit of St. Nicholas, which is not the spirit of greediness and selfishness. It's the spirit of giving, right? It's the spirit of helping not only others, but others whom we may not know or may not be able to repay us. The idea of our Nicholas gift is that you're giving it anonymously, and you're giving it to somebody in some kind of need. That could be.
Oh wait, unpack this. A Nicholas gift.
Yeah.
I don't think this is common knowledge. I don't know.
Well, maybe not. It should be, right?
I think you should talk about this.
Yeah, the example of Nicholas is just that, giving anonymously, giving in just something that meets a need, but that also brings joy. And that's a hard thing. I think we have a lot of great food pantries and clothing closets in our community that do a lot of great work, and it's essential work. But at this time of year, we also need somebody to bring joy and bring hope. And that can only be done, in ways that are surprising. And so I think with a Nicholas gift, it can be something simple like, baking cookies for your neighbor. I mean, it doesn't have to be extravagant. But finding ways that we can do things that would truly bring joy and surprise to folks.
That's awesome.
And nobody's expecting it on December 6th.
And nobody's expecting it.
I mean, that's kind of what's cool about it too.
Yeah.
In the U.S.
In the US.
Nicholas Day is a bigger
It's a
deal
huge
in
deal.
Europe. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, the Dutch is still in the Netherlands. That is their primary, Christmas gift exchange time is St. Nicholas Day. And it's really actually St. Nicholas Eve for them on the 5th. And then the 6th is more for family meals and services and things like that. But I think for an American context, we have an opportunity to do something surprising because it's not as well known. Right.
Well, even in one of the cool things that when you're talking to us, sometimes you're like, I'm going to a conference.
Oh my gosh! Yes,
Santa Clauses.
Yes, we may have to put some pictures from these conferences.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, you guys should watch this on YouTube.
What you can imagine is that sometimes Adam texts us these selfies where he's standing at a podium and he's taking a selfie, and everybody in the audience looks like you're Santa Claus. Everybody sitting in the audience has a nice big white beard. And I didn't know this existed. This is all news to me.
Yeah, and if you guys have only ever listened to us on like audio podcasts, you need to check out the video because you may not realize just how little Adam actually looks like Santa Claus. He could not be less Santa Claus-like. You need to see this guy.
That's true. I thought you were going to say we are donned in Christmas
Look, I'm loving
regalia
the outfits.
Gay apparel.
We are gay apparel.
We are definitely rocking it.
We look like a trio of, I don't know. We look like a Saturday Night Live skit is really what we look like.
We look like that most of the time. Let's be real.
But getting back to
that was so surprising.
Santa Claus conventions and these kind of things.
That was the most surprising piece of this. I had gotten into this, kind of through that angle of research, really, and storytelling. I had no idea of the world, the subculture of Santa Claus.
I love it so much.
And that really blew me away. So there's so many guys that I've come into contact with who portray Santa and St. Nicholas at this time of year and also all year round. And a lot of these guys have amazing stories. They're, interestingly, they kind of fall into two groups. A lot of them are veterans. And, you think about a veteran, a lot of them have a heart of service. And once you retire and you grow a white beard, and you're a big stocky dude, it's another way to keep serving your community.
That's cool.
Which is awesome. And then the other group are ministers, retired ministers, which also makes sense, right?
Yeah,
so
it makes sense.
You've retired, you've grown the big white beard, and, you filled out some, but you still have that heart for service.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these guys, and I say guys because it's mostly men, but sometimes you do have some Mrs. Clauses and things like that. But they're Santa Clauses year round. And so they'll go to military bases, they'll go to children's hospitals and leukemia wards and things like that, and just spread that Christmas cheer, really, which is remarkable stories of just showing up. And imagine a kid in a hospital who's just, this is the worst place you possibly can be. And then this magical character comes to the door,
And we're talking about legit looking Santa Clauses.
Oh,
that's
so legit.
So cool.
So legit, yeah.
They're not fake beards and
what's interesting, and I'm going to share a little secret here. A lot of them do have beards, and they've got year-round beards. But the serious Santas will, even if they've got a legit beard, they'll still wear an artificial beard.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, on top of or in addition to. And the reason is, if you think about a guy's beard, a white beard, it's hard
Not magical.
It's not magical, and it's not usually like Snow White.
Correct.
It's
I'm
hard to
getting
get a
close,
beard. You're
man.
getting close.
I'm working on it.
Beards can be gray
Yeah.
or kind of yellowy,
But it's not magical elf white.
right. You want something that's really like cottony white. And to achieve that, so they'll either dye, they'll like bleach their beards,
Right.
Oh, wow. Okay.
which takes some time and it's pretty extreme. Or they'll,
I mean, you've already committed this far.
but you've already
Go ahead.
committed this far. But the great thing about artificial beard is that it's full, it's pure white, and it's it's easy to kind of take care of in ways. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I just would have always figured like you have a beard, you just go with it. Like no, they still put on. But then they like to have their natural beard when you're just at the grocery store and you've got your
riding your Harley.
and you got your Santa Hawaiian shirt on, and you still get recognized.
Yeah.
So they'll do that, but.
That's super cool.
Well, what's cool to me about that, and it sort of gets to the point that I was making earlier, that I don't think it's all commercial, is to put this in the context
Charlie
of my
Brown.
family. My family history. I had a certain talk with my kids, right, about this whole thing of Santa Claus, and I had it earlier than my mom would have preferred.
That does not surprise me at all, knowing both you and your mom.
So when my kids were pretty young, we had that talk, and I got a Grinch ornament that year from my mom, and she was like legitimately mad. And it had nothing. I don't. What animates that kind of emotional response is not that she wanted me to be more commercial. It's that there
You took
are
the
these
magic away
other
too early.
things, right?
Yeah.
That Christmas can represent. And what's cool to me about the fact that they invite you to these conventions is it illustrates that this whole thing of Santa Claus is not fundamentally or all
Not exclusively
commercial.
yeah.
That these guys who are doing this, they care about this story enough to invite you to their meeting because they want to connect to something meaningful that is beyond just hey, I want this toy, can you give it to me? Transaction thing. Yeah.
Very few of them are working the Bass Pro Shop in the malls just for the money in the commercial exchange. I mean, the vast majority, 99% of them are doing it for some other reason than just it's a holiday paycheck. They're doing it because they really feel kind of deeply passionate about it.
Well, I don't think that. I don't think your mom was wrong, because I think you probably had like the kids in the nursery or something.
There were two.
Yeah, right, right.
No, actually,
Ruin the magic.
I had a conversation with you about this at that time. They were very young. They were younger than most. But what I actually did was I made a little picture book for them. And I said, one of the things that happens as you get older is that you realize that you can be Santa Claus to other people.
That's great.
And we get to be Santa Claus to each other. And so that was the transition conversation for us. And it was really meaningful, even though my mom did not fully appreciate it, because they got excited about the idea. And I think Ellie might have been like a very young baby.
She was probably a baby.
And we had the conversation about you get to be Santa Claus, including to the other very little children in your community, that you can help be Santa Claus to them. And for me, it was just a great way to sort of not just burst an imagination, but rather reframe the whole. Yeah.
He still does that every day. We call him Dr. Dream Killer for a reason. He is constantly taking these ideas and hopes and just crushing them, and then remolding them into something that he calls reality.
Let's have a conversation about Santa.
I guess in that example, and I think also there's I don't know if you know David Sedaris. He's got a whole Christmas anthology. And he's got this great story that is maybe his most famous story about working as an elf in Santa Land in Macy's.
Yes.
Have you heard this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's hilarious. I commend it to you. There's some stuff in there that I've grown to not love as much because he uses some language that I wouldn't use any longer. But one of the most poignant parts of it, he talks about Santa. And it was one of the Santas in Macy's Santa Land that was always in character. Like no matter where he was in character. He never asked the kids what they wanted. He asked the kids about how they were doing. He asked the kids what their favorite part of Christmas was. He engaged the kids. If they told him that they wanted something in the Christmas season, he would listen to them. But that was not the point of the encounter for him.
Oh, that's
the
great.
point of the encounter was to have this magical experience with a person, with the child.
Yeah.
And man, I still get like teared up every time I listen to this thing that I've listened to for like 20 years, man. It's been a long time since I first heard that on NPR.
Your heart grew 3 sizes that day.
But I think that gets to what's possible with this thing that we call Santa Claus.
I agree. Well, to me, it reminds me of the famous news editorial in The Sun. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
There's another one that kind of pulls at your heartstrings. If there was, a world without Santa would be like a world without Virginias, and a world without love, and a world without friendship, and so thinking of Santa Claus as that spirit of friendship and love and compassion, and connection, right? That to me is the real part of the story, as it were. And
figuring out ways to bring surprise, you're talking about, and joy to each other, and that connection. Yeah. So that's whether you do it on St. Nicholas Day or whatever you do it, that's a pretty decent challenge to give ourselves. To be that in our communities.
Well, that's pretty fun. I'm encouraged. that the true author of "Twas the Night Before Christmas" was Henry. I'm buying it. I'm going with Henry.
We're declaring it on this
declaring
we
it
can
on
declare it,
Henry.
yeah.
Here on this is today the 6th.
It is
Today.
actually, we're recording it on the 6th.
Yeah.
On St. Nicholas Day.
What?
On St. Nicholas Day, we hereby declare.
I didn't want to say that.
This whole conversation, I didn't even realize this.
Yeah.
Well, it's for sure not going to be released on
What a nice surprise.
What a nice
surprise you
us a
gave me
gift.
in this moment.
Yeah, you gave us a gift. Yeah, all of us.
Delight and joy and
That's right.
surprise.
I just worked your schedule so that Saturday would fall on December the 6th this year.
Awesome.
And your work on this book is fantastic for a lot of reasons. Again, it helps people understand the historical context, and it gives it such depth and meaning that just didn't happen for a lot of folks before they read the book. It connects it back, honestly, to the birth story in ways that I think just brings it full circle, right? In terms of the Christian faith. So I appreciate that. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for you. This is an awesome conversation.
Yes,
Thanks
and I
for
actually
having
have two little gifts for y'all that I picked up.
Surprise and joy.
Surprise and joy on St. Nicholas Day.
Hey,
What are these?
They're public health approved cigars. It's actually chocolate.
It's dark chocolate
It's dark
cigar?
chocolate. Yeah, it is.
This is amazing.
that is
Do not
awesome.
try to light it.
And you snuck these in. These are Cubans.
They are
Snuck 'em in
Cubans.
a few- yeah. I picked them up in Boston.
That is awesome.
so-
Well, you are such a good friend.
Yeah, man.
And it is so cool to be able to call you friend every one of these seasons because we get to say, like, we know
Yeah.
Professor Santa Claus, essentially.
Well, to the Santa Claus expert and professor who has everything, I bet you didn't have a snoop on the stoop.
Did you see that?
Oh,
It
my
is Snoop on
goodness.
the stoop.
Snoop Dogg. If you're not seeing this on video, there is now a Snoop Dogg in his hand dressed as an elf on the shelf.
He's called Snoop on a
the
stoop.
stoop.
That's right. That's
This
right.
is fantastic.
Well, it's been fun, man. This is awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you guys. This has been so fun.
All right.
And thanks to all of our listeners. This concludes this season of Root Notes. And so thanks for coming along on this journey. And I hope you enjoyed this last episode.
Hope you have a Merry Christmas. We'll see you again in 2026.
happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night.